everyone, and welcome to Dissonant Dialogues. I'm Emily, and I'm here with my co-host Claire. Claire, how are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there. How are you doing?
Been better. This is our second ever happy hour episode, and it's gonna be a journey. You have to buckle in. There's a lot, but to be fair, we haven't done our, geez, since February happy hour
Yeah.
episode. Am I even right about that, or was it further? Maybe it was February.
Well, you said in the plan, you said update since October. So I think that's when it
Oh,
came
that's right.
out.
Yeah.
But we
Geez.
recorded it earlier than that. So it's been about a year, I think, since we recorded the happy
Yeah.
hour episode.
So just a lot of life changes
Yeah.
for both of us, but a lot for me just because
Mhm.
I graduated. Surprise, we'll talk about it. So with graduation comes just a lot of life-changing stuff, and so you can kind of keep up with where we're at in life as we are recording the podcast.
Yeah.
That's what this episode's for. But again, buckle in because if I could hold my foot up right now, I would. I'm currently in a boot and in a lot of pain, but
Ugh.
dissonant dialogues comes first. If we were taught anything in conservatory is that you push through pain. If you have a tear in your tendon, no, work comes first. So
Are we
here I
promoting this?
am.
I
Just
thought we were
reminding that that's the
subverting.
stereotype. To begin, we're going to go in chronological order. Things, I believe, begin in about January for
Yeah.
me. We talked in our first happy hour episode about me being a godmother. My godchild was born. I met her a couple times, but due to crazy life circumstances, it's very hard to find time for, I mean, a newborn baby with a busy
Yeah.
mother and then someone with my schedule. So I've only gotten to meet her a few times, but uh, she's sweet. She's perfect. She's growing. It's a very exciting role to take on that I'm happy to
Mm.
currently have. A little bit backwards here. I finished student teaching. That was completed in December. And I feel like I talked about that in October. That technically, oh no, I'm forgetting. I think my last day was December 6th or December 8th, but I stayed until December 18th, I believe, because we had a holiday concert coming up that I wanted to conduct. I got to conduct Sleigh Ride. Oh, I feel like we should include like a little picture of that. Just because
Yes.
that production was insane. Oh my gosh. They had someone in a costume. All the instruments were like decorated, like the cellos had their little like Santa hats on. It snowed on stage. It was just so cool. I did my signature baton move where I pulled it out of my hair.
Yes.
That's the Emily Zwijack baton move. It was just really awesome. And also, I was learning so much from that high school that I wanted to stay those next 2 weeks. I got so much out of that. So that schedule of 55 hours plus working every week was over and is over as of right now. It was pretty crazy that I was managing a number of private students while student teaching. And the fact that my school was like an hour away is like about a 50-minute drive there, hour and a half drive back. So it was pretty intense. That has concluded, and I have officially graduated now. Even though I completed the performance degree requirements back in May over a year ago, all the music education requirements were completed after student teaching. So I officially have two bachelor's degrees, one in music education, one in violin performance. I did it despite really crazy circumstances. I made it through with a piece of paper. So I'm very excited about that. The Midwest Clinic. I got to attend that for free, which was super exciting. You might have remembered our guest, Nathan Waller. He is doing very incredible right now. A little update on him. I actually just attended a pedagogy class by Elizabeth Fadley. Look her up. She's a very well-known violin teacher in New York. And she was going on and on and on about his tadpoles. And she bought like 90 of them for all of her private students. Check into her page and look at like Nathan's page and decide for yourself if you're a violinist. But Elizabeth Fadley likes to use the cello tadpoles for violin students. She just thinks it's better for the thumb. So it's very interesting, and
Yeah.
whichever one that you kind of prefer to use and what your pedagogy strategy is like. But yeah, Nathan's doing really great with those. I'm planning to talk about his tadpoles with my students this coming year. Stay tuned to listen to that. It was really cool though to get to actually meet Nathan in person at the Midwest Clinic. So I got to go around and see different things, but I was at his booth for an hour and got to help sell some of the tadpoles. It was really exciting to
Yeah.
conclude my 2024.
Yeah, he's kind of blowing up right now, so it's exciting
Yeah.
to see our guests like succeeding.
Yeah, that was really cool. I was continuously getting sick during my student teaching. I can't even say that. I was basically sick from week 3 to the very end of my student teaching. How did I survive that? Working all the hours that I was? I don't really know. You look back and it's like it's just a blur. But I took the time to meet with an ENT and we realized that, let me get this correct. My right side, despite like tons of varying antibiotics that affected me in so many ways that made working very difficult, it would not push away what was going on the right side of my sinus issues. So that was like all clogged up and was not going to get better unless we actually did something about it. And I also had a deviated septum. So basically, Claire, you described this better. Like when I was breathing in, the germs were entering, but when I would breathe
Yes.
out, they don't go out. So I was always getting sick and could
Yeah.
not get rid of it.
Yeah.
Claire has also had the surgery, so that was very
I
helpful
have.
going through that.
So I know the
Worst
misery.
or surgery in the world. Surgery itself, like was a brief. But when you think about getting surgery on your face, that's very just I mean, I was
Yeah.
asleep during it, but I knew what to expect. I knew that there was going to be some packing up my nose when I woke up. That's kind of all that I knew. I didn't really want to think about it too much. I didn't know exactly what he was doing in the surgery until moments before the surgery, too. He did not say for sure if he was going to go in and fix the septum. If he did, that meant it was complete packing up both nostrils. How do you breathe? Only out your mouth. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Just imagine that throughout your entire life, like all the things you do daily. And he told me right before I went under that he was going to fix the septum, too. It's like, okay, I know what that means. And I woke up breathing through my nose, just lightly. When you're waking up from sleep, you
Yeah.
don't like, unless you're having a nightmare, you don't wake up like that. I was just lightly breathing. And I remember the nurse telling me, like, breathe, don't breathe through your nose, breathe through your mouth. There's packing up there. And I was like, okay. And I was just very moody. I get very moody after anesthesia. So I don't want to scare anyone who's thinking about getting this surgery because it's worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely worth it. And then you need it. And you should do
Yeah.
it. But it was a miserable
Yeah.
4 days. I went in one day early to get the packing out because I accidentally laughed with my mouth closed and blew some of the packing, so it got stuck. And then it was like pinching my nose. I'm happy I did that because I got the packing out sooner.
Yeah.
But yeah, me, just with how I am with CPTSD, we've talked about this before, and panic disorder, that was really hard to not be able to breathe
Yes.
efficiently.
Yeah.
And so the first 2 nights I didn't sleep at all. I think the third night I was like in and out, like 5 minutes of sleep. But I was only out of private teaching and coaching for like a week.
You're insane for that.
I was just thinking about that again. I'm like, I started coaching again. I believe it was a week after. I
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to skate for 2 weeks after surgery in case I would have fallen and hit my nose. And also just the heavy breathing. He didn't want me doing that.
Yeah.
But when you step outside and it's winter and it's cold, your nose like runs, and
Yeah.
that can create issues and things up there. And ice rinks are cold, but here I was teaching my private students in group classes. I didn't have any sort of like bandage or anything over my nose. I was like thinking about it, but I was so the kids wouldn't like run into me or anything, but I was like, it's fine. But then I realized the drainage was a problem. So I would go on the ice with like gauze taped up
Hmm.
to my nose and I would coach. There was one point where, I mean, my nose would like just, it drains a lot in the cold, but where it was bleeding and I was aware of it and it was going through the gauze. So I just had a tissue and I was like this and I would coach and talk to my student and then I would cover it back up again. And I just kept doing that. And I did it. I did it. And then I got to take that off, which was nice. And then I got to skate again and back here better than ever, kind of. I feel like
Yeah.
whenever I have surgeries, I should say, I always have like weird not complications, but just it's not I get the surgery and I'm better. All like 3 surgeries I've had in my lifetime, there have been like weird things that have happened. So it's taken me time. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm still kind of healing from the surgery. I still have follow-ups with my ENT. It's a process, but it was definitely
Yes.
worth it. And
Definitely.
yeah, I got it done with hopes that I would get a teaching job this fall, and then I wouldn't have to worry about being sick all the time.
Yeah.
So I
We'll see how
survived.
that goes. But,
Yeah.
speaking as someone who's done it, like it was the hardest recovery. Like I got mine 9 years ago, and Joe and I had just started dating. He came and stayed with my family and babysat me through that recovery. A good way to stress test a relationship because I was not fun to be around. It's a very panicky sensation where like
Mhm.
you can't really eat comfortably, you can't breathe. It's very hard to get used to breathing out of your mouth. So oftentimes I could only sleep in like really short increments before I would wake up kind of panicked. the medications made it a little bit more tolerable, but like I don't remember. Like the whole thing is a blur. It really can be extremely life-changing. It's one of those things that like I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's done for you too, but like it's brutal. I had the packing and I had rods in there. And I remember I had no idea what was in there. So when I finally got them pulled out, I was like, it was like a really long like piece of wood, I guess. And I was like, I had no clue that that was just in my head this whole time. I didn't know what was holding it up.
And that's interesting with how things changed over just 10
Yeah.
years because I
Yeah.
didn't have that. It was just a lot of packing.
I think it also depends on the anatomy of the person.
Maybe that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I know a difference in other people I talked to was the way they took mine out. They just stuck something up my nose and it was like a vacuum and it just sucked it out. So I didn't get to see. But after he took it out, he told me that there were like, what was it, 3 feet? Is it 3 feet technically of pack? It was like a significant amount, I remember, of packing, but it's all
Oh.
like bunched up there, but there's that
Yeah.
much up there. And I'm like, I am so glad you told me that after you took it out. And he just laughed
Yeah.
at me and I'm like, you are insane. Oh my gosh. So I survived that. But yeah, if you're in a circumstance where you may be getting that surgery as well, it is absolutely worth it. But yes, it's a
Yeah.
hard first few days after.
It
But you
is
survive
hard.
it. Like you survive it.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're not. My thing was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die in my sleep because I'm gonna fall asleep and then choke. Like your body would wake yourself up. Like you,
Yeah.
that won't happen. And this was just a few weeks after my surgery. I got my belly button piercing, which I'm proud to announce just because it's not just something for fun. It was something to kind of just have that like control over my body again, and something that I've talked a lot about the skater Sasha Trusova, that whole story about how that was like my first inspiration that kind of helped me find my confidence and my strength to get out of the abusive situation that I was in. And that was one of the first things that like everybody talks about her as a skater, is that she always like has her crop shirts when she's practicing and you could see her different belly button rings and they were always so cute and I really wanted to get it and I finally did. Really did not hurt. That was nothing compared to the nose surgery. Honestly, it really didn't hurt. Not at all. Like tiny pinch. And I'm very happy that I have that now and that I did that for myself. And around that time, I was preparing to skate in a skating show, but I'm still recovering from my surgery, so I couldn't necessarily practice yet. And I was just working on stretching. And the goal I had for myself, along with skating in a show, was to get my splits back because I used to have them in skating and gymnastics. And I can't believe I actually did that. It happened on a day where I really wasn't expecting it. I was just like, I'm close to being all the way down. I should just let my hands go. And I did. And I just had it. I was like, oh my gosh. So lots of like really small, but like cool little strides that I made post surgery that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of. And then last thing before I enter May is I finally been CPR, first aid, and AED certified. That was a really interesting process. It was something that I wanted to do as going in as a for sure school teacher. I thought that that would be something important just to have that kind of knowledge. But what really first pushed it was I'm a skating coach. I'm around kids that have blades on their feet and some of them are 2 years old, like almost like a butter knife. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
scary. It's like a head injury. Like so many different things could happen and everybody has all different kinds of health situations. And I was like, I feel like I should really have this information and to actually be certified, especially as a classroom teacher, the certification part's important versus just like Google searching things. And it was a really great class. I feel like I really learned a lot. Definitely came in handy where this just happened, like, what was that, like a month or two ago, where all of a sudden I just turned around and coaching a group class and one of my students was crying and holding her hand, just lightly crying though. She wasn't too upset. And the kids didn't really tell me they weren't super clear on what happened. They were like, oh, she like fell on her finger. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, here. And I pulled there's another coach that was helping my class too. So I pulled her aside. I'm like, let's just check. And I'm thinking, oh, she landed on it. And she was like, oh, it went back like this way. So I'm like, ooh, let's just make sure like nothing's broken. Nothing could have been torn. That was what I was thinking. And she takes off her glove. That was not what happened. The blade must have cut her hand somehow. And luckily I was able to respond like super quickly. I believe that she ended up needing to get stitches and stuff. But yeah, that was my first taste of intensity on the ice. So handled that well. Thankful for my certification.
Yeah. Like we sort of hinted at earlier, my updates are going to be a lot more few and far between and kind of, different stages of life. Emily is, postgraduate and the immediate sort of taking on of her career and everything. So my pace of life is a bit slower. One thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, in keeping with my disability awareness and stuff that I've brought to this podcast, I got a Visible band, and Visible is an app technology that is the first and, to my knowledge, the only health tracking application that is focused on people with chronic illness and disability. As somebody with POTS and dysautonomia, long COVID, Ehlers-Danlos, tracking my heart rate and my vitals has been a really important part of managing my energy. And something that really frustrated me was I've had like generic watches before. I had an Amazon Halo before they went out of business. And it really irritates me that so many of these products are so geared towards healthy people. Because if you're already healthy, why I get that there's reasons to, but why do you need to track all the information if you're like in great shape? So getting notifications from something being like, you need to get up and move, you know, triggers to exercise and stuff like that, when that's not applicable to my body, it can be kind of sad because it's this constant reminder of the things that you can't do, the things that are different about you. I remember like my Amazon Halo, it did like a body scan. And it, I guess just from looking at you, it can estimate like your body fat percentage. And it was like, oh, your body fat percentage is like really high, even for your weight. And it sent me an article and it was like, explain this more. And I clicked on the article and it was like, are you skinny fat? And I was like, it was talking about how like if you're thin with a like low muscle, like you're still at risk for like cardiovascular disease. And I was like, I know I don't have muscle. I don't have a way to build it in my body
Skinny
with my
fat.
limitations. And I was like, geez, like I didn't need to read that today. So like I know you don't need to tell me. Like I've got no muscle tone. I get it. Emily's been on her own journey with all these health issues. You know, when you're dealing with long-term health issues, the mental health is half the battle.
Mhm.
And so when you have something that is just constantly triggering to look at and you need it to track your vitals, that's really discouraging. So when I first started getting ads for Visible, I literally started crying because for years I've been like, man, if I understood like tech and programming, I would do this, because why does this not exist? I would literally like leave comments on the social media accounts of like people who manufactured these kinds of trackers and be like, there should be a way to like include your symptoms, include your physical limitations. You know, if you're in a wheelchair, you can't do all the same things, and like you shouldn't have all the same stats, the same priorities. So this has been really life-changing. I started using it in March, and it tracks your heart rate, but also your heart rate variability, which is a really helpful indicator of crashes if you're somebody who deals with flare-ups for chronic illnesses, because our heart rates don't normalize at the same pace as a typical person. To, you know, generally speaking, we have delayed heart rate responses, delayed recovery, which can mean that your crashes can be 1 or 2 days after a physically more intense event, which for me can literally just be cleaning a room. So getting to see just what exactly is taking the most energy, it's not always what I expected. You know, the things that I thought would like really spike my heart rate and stuff, it's not always correlated to where I expected. Seeing that there are days when I can do nothing and still use a lot of energy. They do all these surveys to try to get to know your baseline. They adjust it as they get to know you better. You do daily check-ins and monthly check-ins, and they give you a score for basically an energy budget. It starts you, I think, with 30 points by default. And then based on how it gets to know you, it gives you a default for how much energy you can spend in a day. So based on my responses, it gave me 17 points of energy to spend a day. So, you know, about half of what like their default was. And then it tells me how I'm doing in terms of my budget. So rather than prompting me to like exercise, it prompts me to rest. If I am getting worked up, it'll give me a notification and be like, you're in your exertion zone. Can you slow down? And we can't always, but now I have that ability. I can track my symptoms. I can compare things. I can look at trends and be like, oh, hey, every time I have a migraine day, I have this many energy points. That's interesting. It's really helped me to, that's why it's called Visible. I have an invisible illness and it's making those symptoms visible. It's made it so much easier to communicate with my doctors, to even just show Joe. It's so validating to be like, the way that I'm feeling now, I have something to represent that. And it doesn't call me skinny fat.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so I started that. And so, you know, for the people who have enjoyed some of the content that we've made where I've talked about disability, where I've talked about how that applied to me in the music world, I really wish I had had this in school. It would have made it so much easier to see what was going on. And also just how music affects heart rate is really interesting. So I would have loved to have had like that measurement. It's a monthly membership, and then you pay for the monitor, but it's been a really helpful investment. In February, at the end of February, my dad turned 60. So in March, we had a party for him, and that was my first little public performance in a long time. The only thing he
put a
wants
little video in here of it.
I don't know if I'm brave enough. It was very nice that you were like, "Oh, I loved it." I was like, "Okay, good," because like I'm never happy with things. All he wanted was a song called "The Story," Brandy Carlisle. He wanted a version of that with either me or me and Joe. So Joe and I did a little duet arrangement and got to perform that for him. I climbed across the mountain tops, swam all across the ocean blue. I crossed all the lines and I broke all the rules. And baby, I broke them all for you. Oh, because even when I was flat broke, you made me feel like $1,000,000 you do. And I was made for you. I'm not super confident in my modern music singing, but it was really fun. A lot of people think, oh, you married another music major, like you guys must be like all music all the time around the house. And I'm like, we have a lot of silly songs we sing around the house. You know, we have the songs that we make up about doing our chores or about cooking soup, but like making music together, like that's not really, it's something we both take really seriously. So because we both, like the people that I care the most about, I'm the most self-conscious around. So like the closer that I got to Joe over the years, the harder it was to sing around him. So we don't actually do that much together. It was probably the first time we were in a quartet once in school, but it's probably the first time we've done like any kind of duet. It was a fun challenge, something I'd like to do a little bit more of, just reminding me that it feels good to perform. Also in March, we had our first ever trip with our nibblings. We've got 2 nibblings, and then my best friend has a baby who's our honorary nephew. Our nibblings on my husband's side of the family, his older sister's babies, our younger one is just about to turn 1 in a few days, which is crazy. And our niece, she had her 3rd birthday. We went to Florida. The kids went to Disney for the first time. A little bit young for it. They were good sports. You know, we had some pool days and some more easy days. And I visited them a lot for like at their home. So it was the first time we'd all like traveled together and stayed somewhere together. And it was just really sweet to have that bonding time to get to celebrate our niece's 3rd birthday. It was my first time. I've been to Disney a few times, but I haven't been since having a mobility aid. So like seeing what that was like was really interesting. I always love the conversations that I get to have with my niece now that she's kind of old enough to ask questions about it. She's figured out how to use my walker converts to a wheelchair. She's figured out how to use the footrest, and she calls it the stairs. And she'll be like, she'll want to climb up on it and be like, get out the stairs. So it was really sweet to have that time. We did get sick. We got sick over Christmas. Yeah, we got sick Joe and I both got really horrible strep over Christmas. And it was so bad because we had driven. So we had to drive home with like raging fevers, 12-hour over 2 days drive. So this time I was like, please don't let me get sick around like 2 days into the trip. We both got sick. My nibblings are the light of my life and I love them so much. But man, it is hard to have this stage of life where the kids are always carrying something and you're constantly getting sick when you're around them, because I have no self-control. Can I like distance myself from them or say like, oh, no hugs? No, absolutely not. Aunt Claire is here. Give me hugs. So there was one moment where I was helping our niece get into her little swimsuit, and you know, she was balancing on my shoulders, and in the middle of like stepping into her swimsuit, she leaned forward and gave me a kiss on each shoulder. And I was like, I can die now. I can die. I'm so happy.
That is so cute. Oh my gosh.
I know. I love them so much.
That's a tough thing being around kids. It's like, yeah, you don't want to hold back like any kind of affection like that, but then you pay the price for it afterwards.
Yeah. Going into April, you know, you guys have probably already seen it if you follow our page, but we were reached out to by Avery Neal, who is an advocate who works with survivors of domestic abuse, grooming, psychological abuse for women, and provides a lot of support resources, therapeutic resources. And so we did an interview with her, and then did sort of a follow-up content, not really an official episode, kind of some bonus content on our channel. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We also linked to our initial interview with Avery. She reached out to us primarily because of the episodes we did from Emily's story in our last season. But it was the first time that I'd ever really gotten to share anything, not a lot of specifics, about my own stories with grooming and growing up in a high controlled religious environment and purity culture and the ways that affected me. It was really fun, and it's not a fun topic, but it was really special. Done a lot of work with Emily's story, and I hadn't ever really, I'm very open with mine. Like I'll tell anyone who listens about my circumstances, but having more of a public advocacy focused platform to talk about it, talk about the ways in which these patterns are so consistent, regardless of how different these situations can be. So just a little shout out to Avery, because working with her was just an absolute delight, a pleasure. My personal story with sexual harassment and abuse is not really, this isn't quite the right platform because it's more related to like purity culture and religious abuse than it is the music world. So having a little place to sort of work that in and talk about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts was really special.
Yeah, I started to smile a little bit when you're like, oh, it was so wonderful working with Avery. It really was. The way you were talking about things is like, your story, you shared it with people close to you, and now this was a next step for you, is like speaking out more publicly. Me, it was different. It was the opposite, which was weird. And so I guess that's not as normal, although it does happen to people that way. But, then if you do want to take in further like advocacy work that is more public, there's a lot of different kinds of people that you can work with. And as a survivor, you have to keep yourself safe. You're still vulnerable as a survivor. We talked about that story. I forgot the Steve story, that's what we called it. Yeah, we just nicknamed this guy Steve, but it was very strange, very pushy, texting Claire about me behind my back, and Claire told me everything. Wanted to get us in a hotel room to record with him, which it just is never okay. No. And should never happen, especially given the context what we're speaking about. Just not okay. So it was very nice shortly after to get reached out to by Avery and get to talk with her. We had a meeting first just to chat, and we all connected so well, and she was just so wonderful, and it really turned into a great project. So definitely check out that bonus episode. Check out her Instagram page, all the things. Yeah. It was really awesome. Yeah,
I think it was very healing timing for both of us, because we had both like sort of gotten our hopes up about doing this sort of bigger advocacy project, and then it had gone from being like, okay, maybe it's not perfect, but there's still good that can come to it, to like, no, absolutely no. Having somebody who was respectful and thoughtful and knew what she was doing. This wasn't a novelty to explore this topic. This is her life's work. Very refreshing.
Absolutely. Yeah. May was a huge month, but I feel like May is a huge month for a lot of people in many ways. It's just the time of the year for graduations, recitals, if you're a musician. For me, birthdays. It's just like birthdays everywhere, and my birthday too. So yeah, I turned 23. Yeah, it's exciting. But before even that happened, I did the thing I said that I wanted to do. I skated in an ice show for the first time in, was it 9 or 10 years? I can't remember. I feel like I did the math wrong the first time. And I had a bit of a sad, not as tragic as the way I don't want to say I parted from music. I didn't, but my journey in music changed after the abuse. It wasn't that level tragic, but it was still an upsetting change when I had to drop skating. And then I was like, okay, I'm going all forward with music now. So it was nice to use the so-called gap semester, even though I was working the whole semester part-time and, doing different projects, but to use the extra bit of time that I had this semester to just focus on taking care of my body, eating better, working out, like how I got my splits back, and then preparing for this ice show. I choreographed my routine, which was cool. I also had students skating in the show, so I choreographed solo, private routines to just varying different styles of music, and also a group routine with a bunch of little 8-year-old girls. It was the cutest, awesomest thing. I'm so happy I got to do that, and I definitely can't wait to do it again. I definitely want to choreograph for shows more. But the thing about me skating was really special to me. I skated to Dissonant by Arturo Marquez. video of me skating through the routines on my YouTube and pretty much all my socials. I performed the dance on 2 or 3 times now. And the first time I performed it was at my sophomore year district festival. And I made it to district my freshman year, which was unheard of at my school. But then I had my pumpkin carving injury and I was not able to go. So it was really special getting to go my sophomore year and then being able to play dance on. It's just the coolest experience. Listening to it is awesome, but when you're in the orchestra playing it with the sound surrounding you is a whole other feeling. It's so incredible. And then I played it later on with a side-by-side concert with the Chicago Philharmonic, which was super cool. And so to actually choreograph a skating routine to that song, that was initially the song that like, not initially, but really blew up my love for music and just represented how much fun music is to me. And I really needed that reminder. So skating to that song in particular did a lot in helping me learn to love music again after everything I've been through. So it was very healing. It was very nice. The day of the show was nuts because I had a gig right before it, and then I flew the show, and then I have my things going on with preparing for the show, but also my kids. I'm trying to get ready. And at the time, I had already started to have some issues, which we'll get into with both of my legs, which at that point, I was diagnosed with Achilles tendonitis officially by a podiatrist. And PT was after the skating show, but that was already planned down the line. I got new skates in March. Any ice skaters that listen to our podcast do not get Adeas. I know way too many coaches and students now who have had issues in these skates. And when you learn further as we go through this episode about my current circumstances, don't ever get them. Get ones that are more supportive of your feet. That's all I'm going to say. But I still, regardless of Achilles tendonitis in both legs, I still skated in that show. I said I wanted to do it, and I still did it. And I'm very proud of myself for making it to that point and being able to do that. So just a few days later was my graduation ceremony. So I graduated in December, but unfortunately, my school did not have a winter ceremony. They just have spring ceremonies. I know some schools do them in winter. So I had all that time then between December and I think I had to clarify in like April if I was going to the ceremony or not. And that's complicated. If you know my story, my abuser is no longer there, but that's where the abuse happened. And that's where people who have harassed me still are. So it was definitely very hard going to that location. And I did go back and forth in my head. First, I was like, no way, I'm not going to that ceremony. And then, like, down the line, as I was like talking more to my therapist, we went from I don't want to put myself through going down there again to I want to reclaim my territory. Like, it's where I went to school, it's where I got my degrees. I wanted to reclaim that territory. And getting the moment to walk on the stage, I felt like that was going to send a message to the people that were there of like,
Yeah.
you tried to pretend that my abuse didn't happen. But here I am walking the stage. I'm
Yeah.
still here. I graduated from here, and my story is always going to exist here, not just in
Yep.
my life, but it will always be here. I do
Right.
say now that I wish I did not shake hands when I walked across the stage. I knew that they were taking pictures, and I was like, I'm doing this for myself, and I want to have a nice picture. So I'd rather not have a picture of, whoa, whatever that would have turned into. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, the pictures weren't important. And the day was actually really nice. And
Yeah.
I was surprised that I wasn't super panicky because I'd had moments prior to that where I went in that area and I was not okay. But I was able to do that, and it was a positive experience and just kind of my way to say goodbye to that era of my life. It's still a
Yeah.
territory I live in, and I'll be in quite a bit, but hopefully not on that exact campus where things happened again. I have a job. I have a full-time job. I am very thankful because I will say that not a lot of orchestral jobs opened up within my state for this coming school year. So it did feel a little bit like battle between some people like going for different roles. Luckily, this was my top choice that I ended up getting. This process to becoming an orchestra teacher and interviewing is intense, and no one really prepares you for it. I had 3 different interviews between, that was what, March through May. First, it was a Zoom interview with somebody. Then I had to go in and teach a lesson in front of people to kids. And then I had an interview right after that in person with like 7 or 8 people. Some were music teachers, some weren't. And then I had a third interview with the superintendent. And after that, I was verbally offered the job. And then officially, you got to like, do your background check and get some paperwork turned in. And then the board has to approve you. And then, was it the day before my birthday? I think it was. I got an email saying I was officially board approved. Welcome. Will be the orchestra director in Winnetka of District 36 this year and for hopefully a while. So I'm very excited. I get to teach 2nd through 8th grade orchestra, which is just like perfect for me. I've
Yeah.
said so many times I love the littles, especially in skating. I was introduced to working with kids just that are much, much younger. So getting to start out kids and be the one who gives them very good foundational technique so they can soar from there when they get to the middle school level with me, and then the high school level from there, which is a very top tier high school that goes from my schools up to the high school. So getting them prepared for that, I'm responsible for that. And I love that part. That stage is so important. So I'm excited for that. And I also just love the middle school age when I can be a little bit more like goofy with them, but they're also starting to, go through their own things and become the people that they're going to be as they turn into
Yeah.
adults. And so it's just a nice stage to be in. So this summer also, when I get a second, I've been working on stuff preparing for the job. When you're a first year teacher, everybody says you just have to survive the year. That's all. It's not about making huge changes. You can do that your second year. You got to survive the first year. So there's a lot of stuff though that you have to create that can be reused
Yeah.
and just slightly altered for the following year. So, things like handbooks, and I'm working at 3 different schools. So I have to do like 3 separate handbooks, preparing things for the classroom space, the schedule and the calendar, parent resource document. I'm going to do a little blog page for the parents to follow along with what we're doing at school. So just a lot of things to prepare that
Yeah.
all of us you don't think about. And I'm in the middle of doing the handbook and I'm like, oh, I need this. Let me write that down. That's something I have to do after I finish this. And just, doing all the things I can do now to make my time easier to be dedicated to the kids spot on, like when we're in the classroom during the school year. So I'm not like focused on all the paperwork and administrative stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. I am very fortunate. I'm very lucky and I'm very excited. And being an orchestra teacher too, just a music teacher, is very different. It's
Yeah.
isolating from what I've heard because you go to teach math and you have several math teachers that teach the same class. When you're a music teacher, there's usually only one of you. Or if you're an orchestra teacher, there's also a band teacher, but that's different. And you have a general music teacher, but that's very different. But I'm hoping, to build community there. It's an exciting time.
I feel like I've learned a lot as somebody with zero public school experience who's gotten the
Oh,
play by play. I know those kids will be so lucky to have you, and I'm so excited. It'll be a good year. It'll be challenging, but I think it'll
yeah.
ultimately be really special.
Yeah, and I get a lot of questions on my Instagram about, do you want a master's degree? And I feel like I should answer that. Yes, I have always wanted a master's degree. And the best pathway I felt like for me to go would be once I graduate and I have 2 bachelors in these degrees that mean a lot to me, music ed and performance, I can land a job and I'll be teaching at that job for a few years. And then there are programs, which my school offers one, and I was looking for it, so I was thankful that they offer it, where after 3 years of teaching, they will set up a program where you can teach, be actively working and making income, and at the same time be getting your master's degree in music ed is what I want to do online. And I know people that have done it and have done it in like 6 months. That is the role or the pathway that I want to be taking for sure. And that's the
Yeah.
plan down the line. But first, you got to get those first like 3 years of teaching out of the way, and then you're into that groove, and then I could throw something else on my plate. But that's the plan.
Yeah. We've had so many exciting things this spring and into the summer, and I would have been, I'll say I would have been at Emily's graduation as a voice of support, except that one of my little sisters, she also graduated law school that same weekend. So a lot of celebrations going on. So I was getting the play-by-play from Emily about everything. And what's funny is my parents were in town for my sister's graduation, and so they were asking about Emily. My
Oh,
dad, he was like, please tell me Emily didn't shake hands. So it's funny that occurred to him. But anyway, little honorary congratulations to my sister Stephanie, who is, I guess by the time this is out, will have finished taking the bar. It's in a couple days. So she has been head down studying for that. Congratulations to her. And also don't mess with me because I have a lawyer in my family now. The property lawyer, but but yeah, she's worked really hard, so that's super exciting. I have some very, very talented, smart sisters, and I'm very proud of them. We also celebrated Emily's birthday in May, so I got to go to her little birthday party and see some people who I have met in her friend group from like mutuals and in person and over social media. So it was a cool group of people. What was that game called? We had the championship.
hook and ring battle.
Yes, yes.
Look that up. That is actually a really fun game. Very easily accessible to everybody too. It's not super crazy. You just have to have like 2 fingers. I mean, you could do it in many ways,
Yeah.
but yeah. And yeah, basically you just try to get the ring on the hook. It's pretty
We
popular,
had
I
a
feel
little
like
we
on
had a we had a battle. We had a tournament and Emily and I were the finalists. She did beat me, but
Yeah, I told Claire if she beat me that we'd no longer be continuing the podcast. So
Right,
that's how
exactly. It would have
seriously I take my competition.
absolutely ended. So it was really fun. It was a really sweet day having celebrated two of your birthdays with you now, just seeing you sort of shining in that element and seeing the transition from like thinking about where you were a year ago, feeling like you were so much more comfortable and not dealing with as many like surges of panic. They're there, you know, anyone who has
Mhm.
CPTSD knows it'll happen. And sometimes it's not really when you expect it. Sometimes it doesn't really make sense when those feelings come up. But it was very heartwarming. I always get very emotional. I don't socialize very often. I don't see people very often. I don't have a ton of energy. But it made me really, really emotional to just see a little reclaiming of the celebration of life. And it was kind of a multi celebration because it wasn't just Emily's birthday, it was her graduation, her job offer,
Mhm.
and the really fun update, which I think is
Yeah.
it's next.
My book release. This is my book. It's called What About Me? Over the past 2 years, I have spent time writing, having an editor work at it as well, and then just working with BookBaby to get my book actually published. It is currently available for purchase on my bookshop page for $16 for a physical copy, just like this. We've also done a couple of giveaways, and I've sent a few signed books. This is my own signed book with my signature on it. Eh, I wrote myself a little note too. Of course, it's not gonna focus. Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
there we go.
So there are signed copies with little notes to people that ask for signed copies. I made that available for some time. You can also get an ebook version. It will be officially released in, I should be paying attention how many days this is, but July 26th. And then I have recently been working on the audiobook version, which Claire and her husband Joe are thankfully helping with. That is a huge project. That was a huge project for me as well. It was the first time I read my book all the way through out loud, but also in this format. That was triggering. I probably won't be
Yeah.
doing that again because I lived it. I lived everything. And so it was really hard to go back and but I do think in some ways it did help kind of close that chapter of my life. And I do plan on doing further advocacy work down the line, and I still kind of am even in this podcast, but that was kind of the last thing directly to my story that I wanted to do. I mean, probably the most personalized. But yeah, it was definitely very hard. And the audiobook should be available though very soon. I'm happy to do that because as somebody who's going to be commuting like an hour back and forth between my job approximately, I don't have that accessibility to be able to just pick up a book and read it right now. So I've already been looking into audiobooks for myself that I can use while I'm in the car. And so I think this is cool that this just makes it a little bit more accessible to people who have really long commutes like me. Book release, first book release, because I talked about I want to write a book contributing to the music education field. And I already have the topic and everything like kind of figured out. And there's a document already ready for it. So,
Of course.
but
Of
you know,
course.
now is not the time. That will be down the line. There's too much happening
Yes.
right now. But it's a plan. It's something I'm passionate about and want to do for future music educators. So
Yeah. It was
yeah,
very emotional to get my hands on it for the first time. So just like
yes.
having this like celebratory environment and then like getting to see it, it was really touching. And if you
Mhm.
want to learn more about Emily's journey in writing What About Me, refer to our book specific episode. It's
Yes.
a fun episode, a fun process, just very, very wholesome. I feel like this has been a season where there have been some really hard things, but like it's also sort of been a season to like get your flowers, to like really
Mhm.
celebrate and get closure on some things and sort of run your finishing lap. That's never easy, but it has been,
Yeah.
there's been a lot to celebrate.
No, the episode's really great because yeah, it is happy in terms of closure and you get to learn more just about kind of what's going on in my head because it's what I went through. But also, if you're interested in writing and publishing a book and you're like me and was like, how does that even work? How do you get it to
Yes.
that format? I talk about that process. And so it's very informative of like, what was my process like and what is it like for many authors? So you get to hear a little bit
Right.
about that process, which is super cool. On my birthday, I woke up to very exciting news. I checked my email after I did a really cool campus sexual abuse advocacy project I was working on. It was like a whole research project. I finished that, which was on my birthday, but I'm like, I'm happy to be contributing to that. So I did it. And then I pulled up my phone, which I always leave off when we're recording like this or teaching. And I was like, huh, I got an email from the Illinois Music Education Conference. And I'm like, that's weird. And I'm like reading it and I'm like, wait, this can't be right. My proposal was accepted. Last year, at the end of my senior year, when I was still living on campus, I was really interested in trauma-informed teaching strategies, and I did a whole research paper on it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply to speak about that at Midwest and at IMEC. And so I was like, those are two clinics. Why not? And I put so much thought and time into it. And I was rejected from both, but I was like, that's what it is. Okay. And then when it came time to submit proposals again this year, I was like, oh, I'm so busy with stuff. I'm just going to toss in the same exact thing that I applied with from last year. Just kind of forgot about it and thinking I'm not going to be accepted. Like they want like older people. I don't know, or people just with like better credentials or something, was what I was told from people. I feel like we're finally talking about trauma-informed teaching strategies, and post-COVID has really brought awareness to varying types of trauma. And so I think that was probably a higher interest. And also the fact that I'm out of college now and I was accepted. And in IMEC 2026, which is going to be in January this year, at the end of January, I will be speaking. I'm a clinician to talk about my research on trauma-informed teaching. I've already like started to further that presentation for like an hour long, clinic. I still have some more work that I want to do with it to prepare for this presentation, but I think that's a really huge deal. It was amazing news to get on my birthday out of all
Yeah.
days and really just, yeah, change things for me. And it's very exciting that I get to start my teaching career out not only with a great job, but with a great opportunity like that. So that's what's going to be happening. Good news there. Also, over the summer, I taught at the Hawthorne Music Camp. So I student taught up in Vernon Hills, and I was familiar with the territory and the area and the people. So when this opportunity opened up to teach a summer camp, I took it. It was a really awesome camp. I got to meet a lot of really cool people. Commute was not fun, but the kids were worth it. They were awesome. Everything was great. I got to do my conducting signature again, where I pulled the baton out of my hair. It was just really great working with varying kids, fifth through eighth grade. I also got to teach my own music theory class, and they're like, pick a topic. And I'm like, great, I love music theory, so this will be so cool. And I was like, the thing I am the worst at in music theory is improv. So I'm like, let me pick that one. So that way, I was helping myself learn and learn to love improv and to have the not credentials, but the capability to be able to teach a
Mhm.
class on it. But also then I'm helping kids that were just like me, that were scared to death to improv. Because in classical music, as string players, we don't really get familiarity with improv. We're taught all the
No.
rules in music theory. We don't get actual practice doing improv. I was fortunate that during my time, I offered to help one of the jazz teachers at my school with his string techniques class because he wasn't as familiar with the upper strings. So I gave up some of my time to do that. And he's like, if you do that, I'll give you a half-hour jazz lesson on improv. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. But yeah, so I got to teach a music theory class to seventh and eighth graders, and it went really well. I learned a lot about how to just introduce that concept, and I'm a lot more comfortable with it and very happy that I got to do that. Those 2 weeks were very intense because I was teaching all my private music students, my skating students. I was still in PT at the time. And then I was doing that camp all morning, and then all evening I was doing the Opera Festival of Chicago, which was another really incredible experience. I believe were we doing this podcast a year ago? Yeah, we were. Oh my God,
Yeah.
my brain. I believe, yes, I talked about that in our podcast a year ago when I did the Opera Festival of 2024. But now I've done the one of 2025, which was Pagliacci, which was the most bizarre, interesting opera ever, which we can dive more into. But the schedule was intense. I was starting my
Yeah.
mornings off waking up at 6 a.m. and then I'd get home around 11 after the opera festival. It was really intense. And not something that's long-term sustainable for 2 weeks though. Yeah, I was able to do it. And I had two roles. I was a violinist in the pit orchestra, and I was also a social media manager. But the cool thing about sitting in the pit, I mean, playing the music was awesome, but there was one day where the principal, second violinist, asked me to sit up front with her. And I had like one day to mentally prepare for that. And it's just so different when you're sitting in any kind of orchestra and you switch seats. You take in the music a whole other way. It was
Mm.
a whole other experience. And just learning more about what do people in these special roles of sitting in the front row do to handle the whole section in the opera and have that kind of responsibility. I talked to Claire about this, is learning to fully be in your body in the moment. And that is how you get the best out of yourself and how you're able to lead an entire section during an
Right.
opera like that. And so that was just a lot for me to learn of like my CPTSD healing. How do I fully be in my body in the moment to be able to do my job at a whole other level? And it's been just really interesting to think about and processing
Yeah.
and trying to adjust with myself. So the pit was really cool, but then I also got to do a lot of behind the scenes work for the social media that is now all public. Got to know the cast really well. Pagliacci is clown in Italian, so they were wearing clown costumes and makeup. It was just super cool and creepy at the same time. But getting to know them behind the scenes was so cool, doing interviews with them, the cast behind the scenes, and also the people that put it all together, like the music director, the stage director, the choir director, the general director, all those people. It was really awesome. And I mean, I just love opera people. Like I've had like, people in the like what would I call that? The classical music orchestral world where everybody's just
Yeah.
like at you all the time and trying to like point their fingers at you. Opera, everybody was so loving and kind. That's my second year of that experience again. I
Yeah.
love those people. Man, they were awesome. And I hope to play with them again because that was really incredible.
They were
Yeah.
great. They were really good. Yeah, I got to we got the comp ticket privilege, Joe and I. So we
Hmm.
got to go and see and support Emily and support everyone. I've been following along with the social media posts, so I felt like we kind of got to know the cast too. And Joe and I talk about this a lot, how often we sometimes feel like the caliber of smaller groups and companies is sometimes better, if not equally on par with some of the big like A1 opera houses. There's just something that feels very real and raw. Slightly smaller venue, you can see everything more closely. Obviously there's not always the same budget, there's not always the same resources. We both walked away and I was like, I have been to the Met and Dallas and the Civic Center, and like I have heard worse voices than I heard at that performance. Pagliacci had been on my bucket list for a really long time, mainly because that tenor, the tenor aria that everyone knows that kind of comes back as the orchestral theme too, is like really famous, and I'd always wanted to see it in context. And one of my favorite Queen songs, "It's a Hard Life," Freddie Mercury references that melody, and I remember that like the first time that I heard that song when I was like a teenager, I was like, I know what you did. I love it when a normal singer, a non-classical singer, like loves opera, and Freddie Mercury loved opera. So and Commedia dell'arte and like the history of that. And so it's such a self-referential opera in terms of like the history of our tradition. So it'd been on my bucket list for a long time. So getting a chance to see it, and the orchestra sounded amazing, the singers sounded amazing. Different when you have people that you care about in the production. So heartwarming. They did an amazing job. So it was just, guys, support your smaller ensembles, support these like smaller companies. Opera Festival, like it's not the smallest. It's great to support the big ones, but remember that like there are communities and storefront size companies all over the place that like they're doing really cool stuff. Oftentimes they have a little bit more liberty. Oftentimes you see just more diversity and more creativity, and passion. If you live anywhere near a major city, there are some unexpected gems around. Thank you to Emily for providing the tickets. It was
Yeah.
a much needed fun day.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see opera as like this chore to attend and that you're like using your brain and like analyzing things the whole time. It's like they have drinks and popcorn and the storyline is just so
Yeah.
bizarre. Like they're in
And
clown costumes.
translations.
Yeah, yeah, there are translations as well, English translations. So that's Italian opera, but you can still follow along. And even
Yeah.
without the translations, you get the general idea of what's happening in the
Yeah.
storyline. And they're always just the most wild, bizarre storylines. Like it's not,
Yes.
I mean, Pagliacci is a little bit difficult to follow along with. Like I feel like you need a little bit of prior
It
research.
is
Just it's a weird way the storylines like formatted.
it's a
But
love quadrangle. It's not a triangle, it's a love quadrangle. you,
yeah,
you do feel like you need a chart. It's easier to understand when you see it on stage than it is to read. Because I
yeah.
remember that Emily, she's focusing on playing the music, and she was like, I don't quite know what's going on. And so I would try to explain it. And then, but also I hadn't seen it. So I was like, I'm getting it from like what I know culturally and from the librettos. And so then like when I saw it, I could kind of explain things better. And it's just look, this is opera. Everybody loves everybody. Everybody's cheating on everybody. Somebody dies. There you go. That's all you need to know.
And then yeah, I just see pictures, taken from
Yeah.
above the stage, and there's the guy with the knife, and I'm like, what is
Yeah.
going on? And I learned the storyline. I'm like, okay. But it's just chill. It's fun. Everybody is
Yeah.
so like, and it's like an evening where you get to like dress up, but then also like be
Yeah.
relaxed at the same time. It's really awesome. And yeah, that tenor aria, oh my God, I can't speak Italian. I don't know what he's saying, but here I am like singing it on La in my car. It's
he's
awesome. I love
he's
it.
saying laugh sad clown. He's making fun of himself. He's basically calling himself pathetic or like cry sad clown. It's something like that.
That's so funny. So Opera Festival Chicago is really awesome. You should absolutely check it out. Future plans is how I'm wrapping up the episode. Well, let's start positively, and I'm going to end really negatively so we can all walk away sad, unless Claire's going to bring it into a more positive
Oh
light.
yeah, I just had some lighter updates, so
You
however
get
you
to
want to
finish
do
it
it.
then. Okay.
Okay.
Well, the positive things are, I mean, this summer I've been coaching at two ice rinks, group classes and private students from as young as 2 through adults, which has been a really cool experience. I started teaching classes. Just imagine like a 2-year-old on the ice. It's insane. It's really crazy. But I really love working with that age too. It's all that like foundational like technique of music and skating I love doing. So I've been doing that at 2 ice rinks. Going into the academic year, my plan is to just work at one rink during the fall, spring, the academic year, just because I'll be so busy working my school job and that comes first. But also for me, I feel like it's important to not just have one place of work. And I have friends that I work with at the rink. So it's like I want to go there and see people. So that's my plan. And it's just going to be a few days a week. Skated in one ice show. I took my violin out on the ice for another ice show and I played the national anthem. Yes, I actually used my real violin. My teacher doesn't know. She's probably not going to find out. Um, but I was so careful. I also made a video of me playing with a very cheap violin while I was actually skating and doing skills. I posted that pretty much everywhere. Go check that out. That's pretty cool. It's like Lindsay Sterling on ice is what I'm calling it. My private studio is continuing. I've taught ages 4 and up on various instruments, both online and in person and internationally. This year, my private studio is going to be downsizing a little bit, it being my first year as a school teacher. I'm just slightly downsizing my studio so I have the time again to put to my full-time teaching job. Just a lot of marketing for my book. My book does have its own Instagram page. It's whataboutme_book. So if you'd like to follow along with updates, and I just post like little like snippets of things that are like in the book and a lot of like survivor resources. That's the main purpose of that page. Okay. Well, had an MRI done. I have Achilles tendonitis in both legs, but the right leg is the worst. So when you have those issues in both legs, they tackle one leg at a time. So we tackled the right leg. I feel like the past 24 hours of my life has drastically changed my whole world. If we would have recorded this any earlier, you would not have any of this information. Went over the MRI results. 3 findings. The biggest one is that there's a tear in one of my peroneal tendons. I believe that's the word. I've been trying to do research on it to understand the terminology. It's vertical. It's not like through the entire tendon, but it's kind of long. And then the tendon next to it is inflamed as well and just thickened. And then the Achilles tendon, there is currently no tear in it, which I'm thankful for. It's just very tight. So the next step is surgery. And what they do is they repair the tendon that has the tear in it. He snips part of the Achilles tendon, so it's not as thickened and tight. It's pulling on my calf muscles, that's causing pain. So 2 things that he's doing in the surgery when he opens me up. So that was supposed to be August 25th was the earliest he could get me in. Due to some insane circumstances at my physical therapy this morning, life is significantly altered. My surgery is July 28th. I'm currently in a boot that goes almost up to my kneecap. The rest of my summer is going to be healing from surgery, unfortunately. I'll be on a knee scooter for, I think it was 4 to 6 weeks. It might be longer. I won't be able to walk or drive or work. I'll teach online lessons, but I can't do anything else for the first 2 weeks, I believe, while stitches are in and I'll be in a splint. What a way as a first year
Yeah.
teacher to start the school year. It's not just hard being a first year teacher, but I'm going to be in a knee scooter, traveling to 3 different schools, trying to
Yeah.
find elevators.
Hey,
Yeah.
I know that battle.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's hard. And I just got back before we record this podcast. Claire's like, Emily, are you sure you want to record today? You just got this upsetting information yesterday, and now I'm coming back from getting a boot put on my leg. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I can't do much, but I can work from my very messy bed back there. There's the pillows that I put my feet up on while I'm sitting there. So I can edit for the podcast. So I'm like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
do this so I can edit ASAP. I think that's a great idea. I'm going to have to take some time off coaching group classes. Fun fact, I can still teach my private skating students just from the boards. That's what coaches do. I saw one do that for, geez, like 6 weeks. I think it was longer than
Hmm.
that, actually. It was like 3 months when she had her shoulder injury. It's just what you do. And that's what
Yeah.
I can verbally explain things. And I'm not thankful for COVID, but thankful for the way I adapted during that era and learned to teach online for music
Yeah.
because a lot of it is explaining instead of just taking your arm and doing something with it. Um,
Right.
So that's the plan. Still getting everything sorted out. But yeah, the next month for me especially is going to be wild.
And by the time this comes out, like, who knows what,
Oh
like,
yeah.
because it really literally has been the last 24 hours. There's been like a different, like, this whole plane has changed like 5 times
Poor
in the last
Claire.
24 hours. No, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh no, the amount of this changes pains me. We're all rooting for you, and I'm looking forward to you not being constantly in pain. Like,
Yeah, it has gotten to the point where I'm 24/7 in pain now. And it
yeah.
can go up and down. It can be pain where I'm crying because it hurts that bad. And then it can be just like very dull where I'm doing something with the podcast, so I'm not really thinking about it, and that can kind of take my mind off of it. But
Yeah.
it's rough. But, I got a week to get all my pre-ops done and then surgery, which is just I just had this surgery. What is happening in my world and my life? And I posted about on Instagram and I got a message from somebody being like, "You are just throwing the most random curveballs in life." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just waiting for the next piano to fall on me." Like it's just always happening. But I think something about me is my ability to drive forward. And I was sobbing my car ride home, but in my brain, all I was thinking was, how do I make the most of this time and how do I go forward? And I think that that's going to be ultimately what gets me through it. So,
Yeah.
all right, Claire, you want to make it a positive ending while I drink my
All
water?
right. So on that note, yeah, just the last little things that are kind of coming up. I talked a little bit in our last episode about being in the process of moving. So we're further along in that. Still dealing with construction in my unit that has still not been completed, but we're chugging along. We're getting there. Once my wall is put up, then I can take photos and everything and get this place listed. Hopefully a lot of things can kind of fall into place because if you don't know, I'm in a 4th floor walk up, which is just extremely inaccessible to me, and most days I can't leave. Really, a lot of the things that I can't do that I wanted to go back to, voice lessons and performing and auditioning, have really had a lot to do with the limitations of my condo. I didn't know I was disabled when I moved in here, guys. Like I didn't at this point, doctors were just telling me I was out of shape, and I was like, a 4th floor walk up, that'll kick me into shape. As it turns out, no. Meantime, I have been applying to some Kinder Music is a particular brand, but some jobs in that sort of working with young kids. I do not have the energy to be doing it 5 days a week, but I'm hoping that a couple days a week, especially once I've moved, that's something that I have an interest in, is like leading classes with young kids and kind of giving them an early education for music and that bond with parents. That's something that I would love to do out of my home at some point. So I'm looking at getting some experience. My husband, Joe, he's been, doing his own dog training and enrichment business. So once we move, he's hoping to build a boarding facility in the property. So that will really help us to have that option. And another thing that I'm sort of playing around with is once we're settled and moved, I would like to host a concert with a bunch of our colleagues and friends. Again, this might be a while out, but hey, if you're local and you know us, let me know if this sounds interesting to you. I want to have a concert called Fach, F-A-C-H, where the whole theme of it is just doing something wrong, singing something that you're not supposed to, that's like, changing the key of an aria, changing the octave of something, playing something that isn't written for your instrument, something like that. I talked a little bit about wanting to make a collective for performers and really creating our own opportunities. And that's kind of what I want to do first, like sort of dipping my toe in the water. So once we are in a space where it's a little bit more accessible and hopefully not too far for people to come and visit me, that's something that I'm very interested. So if that sounds interesting to anyone in the greater Chicago area, send us a message or send me at Undead Mezzo, because I think celebrating a little bit of rebellion is what our industry needs right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. I mean, I can't imagine the whole house hunting process, but my physical therapist is going through that right now, and she's very moody. And she's not shy about why she's moody. I know that's like crazy right now. It's a crazy process in general, but given like our economy, yeah, everything
Yeah.
is just stressful and hard.
It's
So,
not super fun, but it will be exciting when it's done and somewhere that is more comfortable to live.
Yes. Oh, this was an exciting happy hour episode. We're going to end positively. Forget what I said. Great. Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback, you can reach us at at dissonantdialogues@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 872-216-9032 with any feedback. Also, if you'd like to be a guest or if you have any topic ideas or questions for us, and please give us a follow on our Instagram and TikTok. We are Dissonant Dialogues on there, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Take care of yourselves. Bye. On the invisible trumpet. Are you skinny fat? And so, you know, like I watch it over and over again, and the more I watch it, the more I hate it.
With that, I think you know what I'm getting into. Just don't do the clip where I fell. It wasn't all my fault. That's all I'm gonna say. Claire probably doesn't fully understand what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
That's kind of crazy, but I'm also like kind of crazy. I just wish I could have made them more uncomfortable.
Mess with me because I have a lawyer in my family now. I'm gonna cut that out so it'll trigger anyone. So afterwards, I'm always like, oh my God, human connection feels so good. I forgot about that. Are you skinny fat? No, I can't hear you at all.
Oh my God. I wonder if the podcast, if Zoom can hear me.
No.
Claire doesn't know what I'm saying. I could say bad things about her. Into audio.
Okay, can you say no?
What?
Fine.
Really? I love how we're at the end of the episode. It's working.
Emily is telling everyone her deepest and darkest secrets.
Oh my God,
right
yeah.
now.
Claire literally has no idea. I wonder if Claire's gonna be able to hear this
Oh
when
my
she edits
God.
it. What can I say bad about Claire? She is
Skinny fat.
kind of crazy. Oh, okay.
Your secrets.
I was gonna say you'll probably be able to listen to that after.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Perfect.